Good morning, everyone. We wanted to give you a rundown of the report that has been put together by our Inclusive Recovery Work Group. They've done some incredible work over the last several months. With me, I'm proud to be joined by our two co-chairs, PJ Hill and Adam Dunnick. This work group, however, has been included with a number of extraordinary people from nonprofit to business to labor partners, and they've all come together to rally around a common cause, which at the end of the day is getting back not to the old normal, but blowing by that old normal and recognizing that every single day here, as we recover from a combination of a global pandemic and the unrest that we saw, this is an opportunity to do things differently. Through this report, which, as you will see, is very extensive, there are a number of key findings and key recommendations that they've put together. Most notably, the key word is ownership. Ownership both of commercial and business property, but also of residential. The recommendations, which you have seen, are precise, and we want to make sure that the precision of our solutions now are matching the precision of the harm that was initially inflicted on our black and brown communities. And this is about doing things better. This is about doing things right as we do, in fact, transform. Some of the key areas that I want to highlight that this work group has suggested that we either initiate or double down on are the following. First, our Commercial Property Development Fund, which enables business owners or would-be business owners to own not just the underlying business, but also the underlying real estate, so that when the gains come back, when values go up yet again, they don't get displaced from the neighborhoods that they made wonderful to begin with, attracted all customer base and clientele to, but rather they can reap the economic gains of that work. Second, ownership of residential, and specifically the homes program that we already have here in Minneapolis. This work group has identified that not just as a mechanism to provide foundational home assistance, but also of business assistance as well. You know, you can't possibly think about becoming an entrepreneur or running with an incredible idea if you don't have that base of home. This provides not just that foundational basis of home, but also allows the very same people to build intergenerational wealth, which is a huge piece, ultimately, of home ownership. The final piece on the list here that I'll talk about is actually not ownership at all, but rather preservation of naturally occurring affordable housing that we already have. This is a mechanism to both keep people in place, protect some of the very important naturally occurring affordable housing stock that we have throughout our city, and simultaneously uplift and help out some of the BIPOC developers that we are working with on a daily basis. So this has really been no small undertaking, and I'm incredibly grateful for the work that our co-chairs and our staff. Andrea Brennan from CPED is here. Eric Hansen from CPED. Elfric is here. We got a full team of some really incredible people that have stepped up, including Chuck Lutz, who has been a mastermind at the city for quite some time. And when I get going down the route of naming everybody off, I'm inevitably going to forget someone. I apologize. Bottom line is, it's been an awesome group. They've put together some excellent recommendations, and importantly, those recommendations will be used, they will be utilized in a combination of our American Rescue Act Phase 2 funding, which we anticipate will be rolled out and recommended in the coming weeks. And secondly, we're going to have the 2023 budget, which should also include a number of these recommendations. Again, thank you to my staff, to our city staff, as well as the incredible co-chairs that have got all this set up. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to PJ Hill, followed by Adam Dunnick, who can give you a rundown of some of their work and why they made the specific recommendations.
So I would be remiss not to thank the mayor for this incredible opportunity to co-chair this recovery group. It was an absolutely incredible experience. As he named some of our internal team, I want to thank them. But, you know, we had the opportunity, Adam and I, to work with some incredible leaders from great organizations across the city doing great things from workforce development experts like Lewis King and Bill English to developers like David Wellington and Stu Ackerberg, to our foundation leads like Tanya Allen, to business owners like Kenya McKnight and Hume, to people who focus on economic development every single day for their work like Alfredo Martel from META and Peter McLaughlin from LIST. Everybody in the group was absolutely phenomenal. So to those I didn't name, we thank you for everything that you've done. Obviously, we can't name everybody. But in this, we wanted to make sure that we didn't reinvent the wheel, but that we continued off of the work that was done by the Community Now coalition that the mayor had set up in wake of the 2020 unrest. So we built off their recommendations, and we tried to take it to another level. I think through December, through mid-February, we had 3 areas of focus that we were tasked with: workforce, housing, and entrepreneurship/small businesses. And we wanted to make sure it was very important that we were rooted in 3 principles that was very important to this work group and that was charged to us by the mayor. 1, we wanted to center equity, especially around those who historically have been left out of economic development. We wanted to make sure that they realized the benefits of this recovery, and our BIPOC community really felt that we were going to do things different this time around. Also, we wanted to leverage strategic partnerships, knowing that the whole, as a whole, we're greater than the sum of all of our individual parts. So how can we make sure that we build strategic partnerships to move the work forward and leverage on the work that we've done in the past? And then lastly, we want to develop viable strategies that we can implement and measure both short-term and long-term, and that we commit to every day impacting and doing this work and carrying it and seeing it through. And that's one thing that I want to speak on, is everybody in the work group, we were tasked with a tall order in a couple of months of really trying to make a difference. But everybody said, not only do we want to commit to these couple of months, but we want to see the work through. So no matter how long it takes to implement, not only the organizations, but the individuals have committed to the long-term commitment of seeing this work through. And lastly, our goal was to make sure that we recreate the black middle class in Minneapolis. The mayor has really put a focus on that. The entire work group thought that was very important. So as we move forward, we want to make sure we focus on these communities that historically have been left out. Super honored to be able to serve as a co-chair alongside of Attic Dunning, and excited for the recommendations and to see the work that we put together carried out. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair, Mr. Adam Dunning. Yes, sir.
Thank you, PJ. And I want to be remiss if I didn't echo the same thanks. Thank you to the mayor for the opportunity, the appointment to co-chair this group. It was a great honor to lead. So many thought leaders and practitioners, people around the region that are doing really important work. I echo everything that PJ said in terms of some of the energy that this group brought forward. This was a room that we met in a number of times, and so it was just a real honor to be a part of it. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of the key the key recommendations, such as workforce, housing, entrepreneurship, and legislative recommendations. The mayor touched on a few of them, so I won't go into great detail. But when it came to workforce and all of these subjects, the biggest thing that we started with was how do we align our resources, how do we think about what the city does well and what we could do better, and how do we work together in the public, private, and nonprofit sectors to expand our reach as a city, as a driver here. So when it comes to workforce, how do we identify opportunities to help to align our programs, projects, and investments that support both workforce and housing goals together? There's such a great opportunity in this region right now in terms of the needs for workers in construction, IT, healthcare sectors across many different sectors. And there's a lot of great groups doing workforce readiness. How can we support the youth? That was a big topic of conversation, is how do we support younger workers to get them ready for the jobs of the future? Housing, how do we scale the funding for strategies that expand sustainable and affordable home ownership, especially, again, with a focus on BIPOC residents? Housing is something that we talked a great deal about, especially not just what we're doing here as a city, but regionally. It's such a regional issue. So the supply, how do we help add to the supply? How do we help try to cut through some of the challenges when it comes to ownership of a home? That is the biggest wealth builder that we can help support from a policy perspective. And then entrepreneurship and small business. Again, I come back to this theme of ownership. If we're going to create a black middle class and we're going to help communities own both just a business that they're running, but also just take more ownership of pieces of the economic development that's happening here. We need to support entrepreneurs and help them with the risks that they're taking. So a lot of great recommendations in that sphere. And then lastly, legislative recommendations. How do we increase funding to the programs that are working, the DEED Main Street program, the Commercial Redevelopment Fund, the things that have shown great success? And we think that there's a story to tell down the street in St. Paul. And so even the cohesion that this group formed over time, I think will help build some of on the work that's happening there. A number of the people that were part of the working committee said, we're happy to talk to legislators. We're happy to help tell this story about Minneapolis and what's working. And again, I just want to re-echo how regionalism matters across all these topics. So with that, I'm happy to turn it back over to Mayor Frey, and we'll stand for some questions too.
Again, a big thank you to our co-chairs, Adam Dunnick and PJ Hill. They really did an incredible job at setting this up. So with that, we'll turn it over to any questions that you all might have. So it's a pretty long document that you got there. It might take a little while to read through it, but if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Anything else just before we close out here? Great. Thank you, everybody.